Murder Mystery Monday.
Welcome to Mark's
Red Rum
Murder
Red Rum
Mystery
Red Rum
Monday.
It makes me laugh every time I hear it. Here she is, the person who takes us through Mark's Murder Mystery Monday. It's Courtney, everybody. Courtney.
Hello,
yes.
hello, hi.
Hi, Courtney.
Yeah, hi.
And I want to...
I'll take a passing interest any day.
Yeah.
Really a win.
I really don't have any interest in the whole murder thing, but you know, once you lay this stuff out, you do get me sort of interested. And today, you are lucky because a guy who has broken down the Murdaugh murders on television, he's been called in by Fox News Channel, he's been called in by various networks of all sorts. He is the former assistant U.S. attorney. He's David Katz. Yeah, he is with us. And David has prosecuted murderers and defended murderers, Courtney, so he's just the guy for you.
I mean, finally a professional, honestly, and Josh. So it's nice to have David here to talk about this murder that I'm reading, even as I'm waiting to come on the show, as updates from the trial that are pretty significant. So it's certainly something that people that have been following this story for some time are curious to see what happens in the next couple of weeks. So
tell me where you want to start, and David can chime in, I guess, anytime. I don't know how the dance will work, but we'll work it out as we go. What is this Murdaugh murder? What happened, and what's the state of the state?
Well, I'll quickly talk about what happened. The string of bodies, unfortunately, dates back to 2015, I believe. So we won't go back in that full timeline, although I have brought information around the suspected relationships to those murders that the Murdaugh or Murdaugh family have. It's interesting, in the opening remarks, even Alec's attorney mentioned the different ways that people pronounce their last name. And in fact, his name is pronounced Alec, even though it is spelled Alex. So I'll just refer to them as Murdaugh, but there are several ways that people are referring to his family.
Murdaugh. Okay, good.
So but speaking about why Alec's on trial right now, he's on trial right now for the murder of his wife and son. So on June 7th, 2021, Alec Murdaugh, 54, is accused of shooting his wife, Maggie, 52, and his younger son, Paul, 22, at the family's hunting estate in South Carolina. He has one other son named Buster, who's slightly older than Paul. From what I can tell, there are really three areas of focus for the prosecution, which we can talk about after I just go through the quick timeline of that evening, which is cell phone data, Snapchat video, and then evidence that places Alec at the crime scene. So to familiarize everybody who probably knows the Murdaugh family, but they're a prominent legal family in the Low Country region of South Carolina. So from 1920 to 2006, 3 members of the Murdaugh family consecutively served as solicitor in charge of prosecution for all criminal cases in the state's 14th district. In fact, locals referred to the 5-county district as the Murdaugh country. I think I even remember they were like taking down a painting or a portrait of one of the Murdaugh family members from the actual room where they were trying the case. They're just so embedded in sort of the legal system in this part of South Carolina. So for the evening in question, which is June 7th, 2021, at 7:56, Paul sends a Snapchat video to friends showing his riding around the state with his father. So there's a image of his father, and he's playing with this like tree and Paul's capturing that and kind of giggling on the video. At 8:15, Murdaugh's wife arrives home, and they begin to have dinner together. And at 8:30 on the evening in question, Paul's phone starts moving toward the dog kennels. So they had dog kennels on the property. This was a hunting property that the family owned. At 8:44, a video is taken by Paul at the kennels and allegedly proves that Maggie, Paul, and Alec were together at the kennels. And I've actually brought the audio of that video because you can clearly hear 3 voices in that video. And from what I understand, it's fairly damning. And I don't believe that Alec knew that Paul was taking this video. And he was, in fact, I think, taking this video for a friend who was trying to help him with one of the injured dogs. And so at 8,
and again, I'm sorry, again, for somebody who's, Alec is the father, and
Alec
Paul
is the father.
Alex the father, and Paul is the son.
Yeah,
okay.
Should we play the video right now?
Let's play it and hear
Get back.
A second voice, right?
There's 3 voices, yeah. This is Paul.
Quit, Cash. Quit. It's okay. Come here. Come on, buddy. Come here, Cash. Cash.
Hey, he's got a bird in his mouth.
Hey, buddy.
It's a guinea.
There's a chicken. Come here, Cash. Cash. Quit.
So you can clearly hear that there's 3 voices in that video, right? There's Paul, there's Maggie, and then allegedly there's Alec's voice in the background. And actually,
and why is this significant? Because he said he was there alone, or what?
He said he wasn't at the stable, or sorry, at the kennels with his wife and son. But that video places him there. And
the father said he wasn't there, and it turns out he was there. Okay.
Yeah. And the young man who received the video, his name's Rogan, he testified, I think, that was 100% Alec's voice. So Paul takes that video at 8:44, and at 8:49, the prosecution says Paul's phone is locked and goes silent forever. So nobody hears from Paul again. At 9 to 9:30 that evening, Paul and Maggie are killed. And at 9:06...
Killed how?
So they were
shot?
both shot. Yes.
Okay.
Maggie was shot 5 times with a rifle and died very close to her son, including the back of the head. Paul's... I won't even get into Paul's.
Geez, this is brutal. This is pretty brutal. Okay, they're both shot. Okay, I want to bring David here in a second, but
and then I'll just finish that. Yeah. Murdaugh says that he goes to see his mom at 9:06, and then he returns at 10:07. Well, at 10:07, he has returned. He's gone to the kennels. He finds both his wife and son dead, and then he calls 911. So. This all happens between 8 and 10 o'clock that evening. David,
why does this? What's the motive here? Is he just? Why is he killing? Let's assume again. I don't know. You start wherever you want, David Katz, please. But I don't know.
Let me start with what Courtney had. Let me start with what Courtney had to say, because I thought it was important what she just did to walk people through it. In terms of how it developed. Apparently this video or Snapchat or whatever the son Paul has taken, Apple has ways to protect, the content of devices. And so with him having died right then, them not having the password, they claim that it took them about a year to obtain this evidence that Courtney just spoke about. And that was really the break in the case. People ask, well, why wasn't the dad, Alec, why wasn't he charged for this year? And what they're pointing out, and it's important, is that they did not have this evidence. But when they got this evidence, this was what they considered one of the real bombshells that the prosecution says is going to convict him. Because he's already had 2 interviews with the police. Never a good idea in a criminal investigation. Take the 5th. If anything has to be said, talk to your lawyer, have your lawyer figure out what ought to be said in the situation. A lot of innocent people are convicted based on having said foolish things, and obviously a lot of guilty people are convicted based on saying incriminating things. And this fellow Alex seems to be in the latter group because, as you pointed out, Mark, he told the police twice in 2 different recorded interviews that he was not there. And this Snapchat or video that his son took was obviously done unawares to the dad. And now it's the dad's undoing, because he said that he wasn't there. If he is there, who on earth could kill these people except him? They always say, find the real killers. We need to find the real killers. One thing he did to make it look like, according to the prosecution, there are real killers out there who are not him, is, as Courtney was pointing out, he shot the wife with a rifle, but he shot the son allegedly with a different weapon, so that it could be argued one day, oh, it must have been two different assailants. Each one had their own weapon. One shot one shot the other. See, it was two guys, to throw the suspicion off that it would have been one guy who shot both of them. He allegedly used two different weapons. Now, to turn to your question about
motive, the motivation. Thank you. Yeah.
Now, motive is incredibly important here, because if you were actually enough of a psychopath, and I mean an extreme psychopath, to have done something like this, kill your own son, you have to be thinking, the prosecution says, that it's so outrageous, it's so far-fetched that someone would kill their own son and their wife, even if they didn't get along with their wife or not, and the defense has put on a lot of evidence that he got along great with his wife. But whatever your relationship with your son and your wife, to kill them as a way to delay your financial problems seems like an awfully huge stretch for the prosecution. But the prosecution wants to show that, and just this morning the judge said they're going to be allowed to show motive by showing how much financial trouble Alec, the dad, was in at that time. And Mark and Courtney, one of the reasons he was in so much trouble, and it was imminent, was that morning he'd been confronted by an accountant or something at his law firm saying that the books didn't add up, that money that should have been paid by Alec into the law firm wasn't. Where was the money? All the books were being checked. That was just that morning that Alec was confronted with that. On top of that, as Courtney said, there were two other incidents which are too long to get into, but one of them is a boat crash. And there was litigation and a lot of fury over this boat crash, which is where his other son, was this son who was out boating, was drunk, somebody got killed. There was all sorts of litigation over that. One of the dad's defenses, Dad Alex, is charged with double murder. One of his defenses is that, it must have been someone seeking revenge on account of his son in the boat crash. But the judge allowed this morning the financial evidence to come in that he'd been confronted that morning with financial improprieties, embezzlement, and that in 3 or 4 days, the hearing about this boat crash was about to take place, which also implicated the dad, which is a long story, and that it was to delay, to buy time, and to deflect attention away from that inquiry by the law firm and that lawsuit about the boat crash, which the dad was actually implicated in several ways. To delay that was the motive, and it succeeded, that it was delayed, and all the sympathy turned to Alec, the dad, not wrath, not fury over the embezzlements, over all the other bad things that he'd done. So it successfully delayed things. It successfully deflected attention until the police got a hold of and figured out how to unlock the son Paul's video phone and retrieve that video that Courtney has described so well and played, which is incredibly incriminating. A lot of people say it's game, set, and match. That's what they said when I was on Fox TV with Trace Gallagher, that it was game, set, and match. And they call it the Deadly Dynasty case because, as Courtney pointed out, they had an amazing legal dynasty. He was the 4th generation, and his 3 progenitors, his 3 ancestors in a row, had been the chief prosecutor of that county for 90 years.
Wow. Wow. So, Courtney, is this game, set, match? Were you followed this case all along? This felt like watershed moment, right?
It did. And also, this is something I read online, so I'll use the word alleged, but there's video of Alec talking to the police once they arrive, and he's explaining the family members that he's called after the murders. And he's called his 2 brothers, and then he's called Rogan, who's the young man that received this video and who had been chatting with Paul. That's pretty incriminating. So before he calls his son Buster or anybody else in his family, he calls the young boy that has incriminating evidence against him. The whole thing, no one would accuse him of being thoughtful about anything that he's done regarding his financial crimes and even the incidences where people have lost life associated with his family, but certainly he was all over the place that evening. And he had, it came to light this morning that when he went to allegedly go visit his mom, which it seems like he did go to her house, he was trying to tell her caretaker that he had been there twice as long as he had actually been there. So again, you know, and then to go on to hire somebody to try to kill him. A lot of the things that happened in this case don't make sense, but certainly the recent evidence that has come up in this trial really point to incriminating circumstances. So,
Mark, can I just say what his side? Mark, being a criminal defense attorney now, can I just say a little bit about his side of the story?
Yeah, please. We just showed a picture of the guy he hired or tried to hire in the murder thing. Go ahead, David, please.
His side of the story is that someone as smart as him would have thought of some other way to get a delay than to kill his own son and to kill his wife. And the motive is so preposterous that they can let in financial evidence all day long, even if he was in financial trouble, even if he wanted to delay those proceedings. He could have played victim something else, even if that was his game. But to kill the two of them, son and his wife, seems outlandish. And the defense says, look, there's not the kind of evidence that you normally have here. There's no eyewitness. There's no exculpatory statement. So they argued, although it's pretty exculpatory when you make a false exculpatory statement, when you say you were somewhere else and then physical evidence shows you weren't somewhere else. And they also point out that, things like him changing his shirt, he could have had good reason to change his shirt. The prosecution says he changed his shirt so that he wouldn't have blood on the shirt. He could say he was wearing the other shirt the whole night, right? So he's in a world of trouble, but it's certainly one of those stay tuned. But this morning was a very important morning because if the judge had not allowed in any of the financial evidence, then the defense would have been free to argue there was no motive. He had no reason to do this. This is all a terrible accident. He's being framed. It's a terrible concatenation of circumstances, but it's all circumstantial, and none of it really points to guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. That's what the defense would like to argue, and what they probably will the next few days.
Wow. Exculpatory, yes. This has more wrapped up in it. I mean, by the way, David, you'll concede, I mean, you've seen so many, and Courtney, you as well, because you follow this true crime world. The notion of creating a distraction, regardless of your financial situation, by shooting and killing two of your, I mean, isn't it? It is. Have you ever seen anything like this?
I don't think where someone has gone to these lengths, but, if you like Agatha Christie and you like all of this kind of murder mystery, people do amazing things. But yes, normally there's a much more natural motive. Even if you look at a case like O.J. or Rittenhouse, think of those two different cases, two different acquittals. But there was a lot more. We can understand the motive, right, in both of them. Rittenhouse was the guy in Kenosha, Wisconsin, who got acquitted after shooting people in that street scene, that street demonstration. And, of course, O.J., we all know about. That would have been jealousy, a sudden rage. This is a very peculiar motive. And it may end up that he's found not guilty, but I really doubt it. As Courtney was saying, there's the other cases, too. There's the boat crash. She's not the first person to die on that property. The wife of the housekeeper also met her death there. There was a lawsuit over that. At the very least, it seems that Alec, the lawyer, embezzled about $4 million from that. We had testimony on that the other day. So I think when push comes to shove, while they're not supposed to consider bad character against the defendant, here, there's so many prior acts. Yes, they go to motive, but they also go, I think, to a jury that's not going to be inclined, despite all the defense efforts, to acquit him. I think he's going to be convicted and get a life sentence in this case.
Oh,
there's never been anything like this.
It does feel like there's never been anything like it. Courtney, what can we say? You've brought us, ripped right out of today's headlines type thing. Thank you very much.
Oh, yes. Well, it seemed like some of your fans were interested in our discussing this story, and I'm so glad that David could join.
Yeah, to have David here is really
so
like a super luxury. So I want to thank David Katz, who is typically with us on Thursdays. And in this case, he joined us especially because I'd seen him on Fox News Channel talking about this. You know, he is, David, you are a legal expert in so many different ways, and I know you're also a working lawyer, so I appreciate you taking time out. Really do appreciate all that you add to these conversations. Thank you, my friend.
Well, Mark, I'm happy to be with you, in large part because you're intellectually interested in these topics, and I think you present them so well.
Oh, that's so kind of you to say. All right, we'll talk to you on Thursday, and thanks again, David Katz.
See you then at 11. Hear you then at 11.
Yeah, see you at 11. That's right, 11 o'clock on Thursdays when he's. And Courtney, another successful execution. I feel pardon the expression in the case of murder.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm excited for our Cracker Barrel Valentine's date. So. Yes.
Well, maybe that will happen.
Romantic.
I can only hope.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
it's
Courtney would tell you that it would
better
be the Cracker Barrel Valentine's date would be more romantic than anything else in our relationship. Wouldn't you agree, honey?
It would be more romantic than anything he's planned for Valentine's Day.
Wow. Thank you. I don't even know where to go with that.
I'll tell you the truth. I feel that I bring such romance to every day in our life.
Is that what it is?
I don't need a day carved out for any sort of, upping the ante on romance. But
I'm disappointed. Like my image of you as a high romance kind of guy is dashed.
Well, I think it's high romance, but Courtney has issues. What can I tell you? I think the problems are with her. That is Mark's Murder Mystery Monday for today.
Mark's Murder Mystery Monday on the Mark Thompson Show.
Yes. That's a wild one, that Murdaugh thing. Man, that's crazy. I really didn't know any of the details. They say, well, how will we ever find a juror who doesn't know the details of the murder? Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.